It's a great day to be a Miami Dolphins fan. The update we've all been waiting for is finally here, and it's about star tight end Darren Waller. After weeks of anticipation, Waller has officially been activated off the PUP list, which means he's clear to return to practice. This is huge, because if he had stayed on the list, he would have been forced to miss the first 4 games of the season. Thankfully, that's no longer a concern. From the beginning, the expectation was that Waller would be ready for Week 1, and now that's exactly what's happening. On Wednesday afternoon, ahead of the team's final public practice and their joint session with the Jacksonville Jaguars, Waller finally stepped back onto the practice field. This marks the start of him building chemistry with Tua Tagovailoa and fully integrating into Miami's offense. Before listening to the latest news, subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to press the bell icon. Let's move on to the new news. The timing couldn't be better. The Dolphins traded for Waller just a month ago, and now fans can finally start to see how he'll fit into this explosive offense. With his talent and Tua's leadership, this move could give Miami's attack an entirely new dimension. When it comes to Darren Waller, fans have been anxious to finally see him back on the field. After missing last season and spending weeks on the PUP list, there were real questions about how quickly he could shake off the rust and contribute in Miami's offense. But now that he's active, there's a sense of relief around the team. At Wednesday's practice, things got a little interesting. Waller took part in stretching drills, briefly left, but then returned later. While he didn't join the 11-on-11 team sessions, he was locked in on the sidelines, taking mental reps and staying engaged. The real test will come in Miami's joint practice with Jacksonville, where fans and coaches alike are eager to see how involved he becomes. And it wasn't just Waller making headlines. Matthew Judon, the Dolphins' newest addition on defense, took the field for his first practice with Miami. Sporting his trademark energy, Judon wasted no time making an impact, jumping right into padded sessions and chasing after quarterbacks. His intensity stood out immediately, showing why the Dolphins wasted no time bringing him into the mix. With Waller working his way back and Judon already turning heads, this Dolphins roster is shaping up to be one of the most exciting storylines heading into Week 1. From the very first snaps, Matthew Judon showed why the Dolphins brought him in. He wasn't easing into practice. He was dominating. In back-to-back plays, Judon exploded off the edge, creating what would have been 2 sacks, including a strip sack on Zach Wilson. His power in the run game and relentless pressure in passing situations instantly gave Miami's defense a different energy. What makes this move even smarter is the role Judon will play in Miami. Last year with Atlanta, he was forced to carry too heavy of a load, and it showed in his production. But here, he doesn't have to be the lone star. With Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb leading the way, Judon adds depth, experience, and a dangerous rotation that will keep Miami's pass rush fresh for all 17 games. After practice, Judon made it clear he isn't in Miami to coast. He emphasized that he came here to work, not to just enjoy South Florida or collect a paycheck. That kind of mindset is exactly what the Dolphins need. Veterans who are hungry, not satisfied. Judon's career speaks for itself, and if his first practice is any indication, Miami may have just added another difference maker to an already loaded defense. Matthew Judon's first impression couldn't have been more promising. His message was clear. He came to Miami to work, to compete, and to be productive. That kind of attitude should fire up every Dolphins fan. Judon may not have been the cornerback addition some were hoping for, but his presence on this defense is already looking like a major boost. And with him now wearing the number 8 jersey, fans will be eager to see him give that number new meaning on the field. Shifting to the injury front, there's more good news for Miami. Alec Ingold and Mohamed Kamara, who were both recently in concussion protocol, returned to practice in full pads after previously being limited in non-contact jerseys. Ingold's role as a starter is secure, but for Kamara, the situation is different. With Judon now added to the mix and other young edge rushers like Grayson Murphy, Quentin Bell, and Derek McClendon impressing in camp, Kamara will need a strong showing this week to fight for a roster spot. Otherwise, he may be headed for the practice squad or another team. Another encouraging update comes from safety Ashton Davis, who Miami picked up in free agency. After suffering a lower body injury earlier in camp, the expectation was that it wouldn't be season-ending. Recent reports confirmed that he's progressing and should be back in the mix without missing too much time, giving the Dolphins added depth in the secondary. At practice today, there was another encouraging sign for the Dolphins. Ashton Davis was spotted on the sidelines, no longer wearing the walking boot that had been part of his recovery. That small detail shows his rehab is progressing well, and his return could come sooner than many expected. Originally, the thought was that Davis might begin the season on injured reserve, which would sideline him for at least 4 weeks. But now, with 2.5 weeks still to go before week 1, there's a chance Miami could keep him on the active roster if his timeline continues to improve. That would be a major boost for the secondary, especially since Davis was projected to compete for a starting spot alongside Minkah Fitzpatrick. Even if he returns as part of the rotation, his presence would add important depth and flexibility for this defense. On the offensive line, there's also news about Andrew Meyer, who had been turning heads with one of the strongest training camps of any depth player before suffering an elbow injury. He was seen with a brace on his left arm, and while he's expected to miss some time, the injury isn't season-ending. Like Davis, Meyer could also land on short-term IR, but the Dolphins are hopeful he'll be back before long. His absence opens the door for Daniel Brunskill to take on the role of top interior depth option, but Meyer's return later in the season could give Miami an extra layer of security up front. The Dolphins have been fortunate that most of their recent injury news is trending in a positive direction, and with the season so close, these recoveries could play a key role in shaping the roster. Shifting from injury news to practice updates, there's a big development in the Dolphins secondary that should get fans excited. Rookie cornerback Jason Marshall Jr., Miami's 5th-round pick, is starting to climb the depth chart. Early on, there were doubts about whether Marshall would be able to make an impact right away. Some analysts even questioned the pick, believing other corners on the board might have been a better fit. But the rookie has been proving people wrong. His performance in camp has steadily improved, and he's beginning to turn heads with his physicality and instincts in coverage. For a defense that already has playmakers like Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard leading the way, seeing a young cornerback step up is an encouraging sign for the team's future. Marshall still has a lot to prove, but if his growth continues, he could carve out a meaningful role much sooner than expected. One of the biggest surprises of camp has been how quickly Jason Marshall Jr. is adjusting to the NFL. After playing mostly on the outside at Florida, the rookie is now being tested in the slot, and the move might stick. With Kader Kohou sidelined, Marshall has been seeing more reps inside, and coaches have been impressed with how naturally he's picked it up. What's encouraging is that this isn't just about filling in. Marshall has shown real ability. His physicality at the line, willingness to press receivers, and speed to close gaps have all stood out. Coaches praised his toughness last week, noting how he held his own against veteran competition. And today he backed that up again by breaking up a pass intended for Jalen Waddle in the red zone. For a defense that needs answers in the secondary, Marshall's progress is huge. If he continues developing at this pace and contributes as a rookie, Miami's defensive backfield could quickly rise from being a concern to a strength. His emergence gives the Dolphins a young, aggressive piece that might elevate the entire unit. For now, Jason Marshall Jr.'s progress is something worth keeping an eye on. If he can put together a strong showing against Jacksonville's receivers in the joint practice, and then follow it up with another good performance in the preseason finale, he could push his way into being the Dolphins' 3rd or 4th cornerback on the depth chart. The opportunity is there. With Storm Duck holding down a starting spot, Mike Hilton working in the nickel, and Jack Jones showing steady play, Marshall has a clear path to climb. Meanwhile, injuries to players like Ethan Bonner and the recent absence of Kendall Sheffield open even more room for movement. Right now, the projection looks like Storm Duck and Jack Jones on the outside, Hilton in the slot, and Marshall developing into a versatile 4th option. He may not be a finished product yet, but the way he's been improving gives Miami a young piece who could contribute far earlier than expected. The Dolphins' cornerback picture is starting to take shape, and flexibility will be key. If Mike Hilton struggles or deals with injury, Miami has the option to slide him outside and give Jason Marshall Jr. more opportunities inside, or vice versa. That versatility makes Marshall an intriguing piece for this secondary. Behind the top group, depth spots are still being sorted out. Cam Smith and Kendall Sheffield are battling for the fifth and sixth corner roles, while Ethan Bonner remains sidelined. One player who deserves recognition, though, is Jack Jones. Jones came into camp strong, making plays early, but he hit a rough patch in joint practices against Detroit, where Amon-Ra St. Brown gave him all he could handle. To his credit, Jones owned it, admitting he was beaten and using it as motivation to adjust to Miami's more aggressive, press-heavy system. Known as a ball hawk who likes to read quarterbacks and jump routes, Jones is now being challenged to refine his technique and limit mistakes against double moves and deep shots. The growth is showing, and it's why Jones has made a strong case to be Miami's starter opposite Storm Duck when the Dolphins line up against the Colts in Week 1. To wrap things up, the defensive line was the clear highlight of today's practice. Matthew Judon continued to show his impact, while Jalen Phillips, Chop Robinson, and Bradley Chubb all made disruptive plays. Together, this group might just be the best four-man edge rotation in the NFL. When you add Miami's interior presence into the mix, the Dolphins arguably have the strongest six-man defensive front anywhere in the league. Other teams like the Giants and Eagles have strong reputations, but the combination of talent, depth, and versatility in Miami is second to none. And that's exactly why this defense could surprise people. Yes, there are questions in the secondary, but if the front four, and really the entire front seven, can consistently collapse pockets and pressure quarterbacks within seconds, those concerns may not even matter. The countdown to Week 1 is on, and with this kind of firepower on both sides of the ball, the Miami Dolphins are looking more dangerous than ever. Fans should be excited. This season has the potential to be something special.